Hello and welcome to my first impressions video for Pokemon Legends Arceus. First, a little background about myself. I'm a longtime Pokemon fan and or consumer of Pokemon media. My first ever video game at the ripe age of 4 years old was Pokemon Crystal, which I played on my Game Boy Color. All the way through Gen 4, I was heavily invested in Pokemon, and it was a huge part of my childhood and pop culture at the time. I took a bit of a hiatus during Gen 5, which was around the time I started high school, and I didn't revisit the series until I started college. This was around the time the 3DS was released, and based on all the hype around X and Y, I was totally drawn back in. Growing into an adult and faced with a largely negative reception to Sun and Moon, I didn't spend as much time on those. I did eventually force myself to play through those games, but was largely uninspired. A lot of the magic was gone, and the direction of the franchise was really not appealing to me. But a little farther down the line, I picked up a Switch, and luckily, right before the start of the shortage at the beginning of the pandemic. And although the sole reason I bought the Switch was to play the new Pokemon Sword, it actually took me another full 2 years before I would boot up the game. This was because my friends convinced me to play Stardew Valley, and after hundreds of hours on that, and mainly focusing on PC games, the urge to play Pokemon had just faded away. But only just in the last month did I decide to finally pick up Pokemon Sword and play through it. I just finished the story and I was messing around with breeding and IV perfect Pokemon and all that, and I was experimenting with new stuff and maybe thinking I would try competitive battling. But to be honest, I was getting bored. And that's when I realized there was a new Pokemon game, Legends Arceus. So this game is a big deal for me. I've been largely disappointed in the Pokemon franchise for the better part of the last decade. But from what I've heard so far, this game is different, and it's actually exceeding expectations. To give a perspective, I've actually refrained from watching any trailers or gameplay at all, so this is a totally raw experience for me. I have very high hopes that Nintendo is giving us the Pokemon RPG experience we deserved about 10 years ago. So here we go. Be warned, there will be heavy spoilers in this video. Okay, my first thoughts were total awe. The instant magic of having full camera control from the second the game starts goes a long way. Yeah, I know it's an extremely basic thing, but for Pokemon, this is huge. Like, the love and passion for this universe is so deep, and for them to finally give this gateway into an immersive experience is so fresh I can barely contain myself. Then, there was my first time throwing a Pokeball. It was quick and snappy and satisfying. The sounds and the little puff of smoke and fireworks from the Pokeball were all nice touches. Honestly, the whole thing had me giddy as a goose. In fact, I'll even show my real-time reaction to these moments. So I can keep moving. This is pretty sick. I'm shuffling. It sees me holding. Okay, I'm moving around. Oh, it's waving. Aww. B will cancel. Okay. Oh, he looks at you when you throw. How sudden. Oh. Oh. Look, I spent way too much time in the beginning of the game just looking around, messing with the camera and learning all the buttons and adjusting settings and reading every little menu. I didn't want to miss anything. I want the full experience. I've just been looking around, judging the environment, talking to every person and going into every room to make sure I soak it all in. So there's good and bad. But let's start with the good. Can I get close? Hey, buddy. Oh, Rowlet. Oh. Oh. We're in what I believe is supposed to be the Sinnoh region. Yeah, I know they call it Hisui, but I don't know. I think there's something more to that. The village is called Jubilife, after all. The game does an okay job of setting up the story. You have a professor and a Pokedex that needs to be completed, yada yada. But the backdrop for those tropes is just a little bit more interesting this time around. You're either back in time or in another universe where Pokemon truly are a new and scary thing. Unlike previous games where the region you live in is a suburban and urban paradise for normal life, And the stakes are so low, a 10-year-old can wander around aimlessly with no supervision and change the geopolitical landscape. This time, you're 15 years old. But in all seriousness, the motivations are better here. These are older, simpler times. There are less people are less educated, and scared for their lives. So much so that they have guards around the village and won't let you enter without permission. In fact, you're told several times that if you try to carry on without the shelter of the village, you will surely die in the wilds. Now those are stakes. And yeah, being 15 makes it that much more believable. So it seems like the stakes are just a bit higher this time around. And the work you're doing is really for the greater good, and not just Professor Laventon's science project. The common folk are truly afraid for their lives when it comes to these creatures, and you can do something to make the world a better place. I still wish there was a jump button. Oh, my shoes come off? What? Say what you will about the quality of the art and animations, but I think they're okay. Could they be better? Yes, absolutely. Are they terrible, terrible, horrible? No. And if anything, I think they're just in a sweet spot that almost has a certain charm to it. It kind of reminds me of playing Shadow of the Colossus on PS2. Anyway, the Pokemon look great, and it seems like they actually worked on the animations this time around. Each Pokemon has movements and wanders all around in the wild. The entire system of catching them in different states by sneaking around is fantastic. Not to mention the photo booth. They had to animate like 5 different poses and loops for each Pokemon. That's actually incredible, and I love it. I do have some bad things to say about the visual side of the game, but I'll table that for now. Wow, let's talk about core gameplay. Again, I'm only several hours in, but I've experienced what I feel are probably core mechanics, so let's talk. The whole concept of this game is incredible, and it's everything we've been asking for and should have gotten 10 years ago, just mechanically. This is what people want to do: run around in an open world, encounter, battle, and catch Pokemon organically and in real time. It's absolutely exhilarating. I've probably caught 100 Pokemon already, and it doesn't get old. Each one has its own temperament and behaviors, and therefore ways you have to work around it to catch it successfully. And my god, the fact that battles just happen without any kind of intro sequence or break in the action is marvelous. There is no longer any battle landscape and overworld duality. It's just one world with no break in immersion as you move between. You can run around and watch the battle from different angles, throw Pokeballs part of the way through, and run away if you're overwhelmed, even be jumped by a group of more than one Pokemon. It's so good. Then there's running and hiding. You can sprint and run and walk, but also crouch. And when you're in the grass, you're extra sneaky to get those extra squirrely pokes. There's a dodge mechanic just to sneak that much better, but also to avoid losing your life to an enraged Shinx. You just can't make this stuff up. I almost forgot. I can't give any kind of review without talking about one of my favorite additions so far, a crafting system. Wow, it's crazy how far something so small goes to making the game feel just that more gritty and real. I can collect materials and resources and craft my own Pokeballs. Yes, please. Give me more. And in fact, my Pokemon can get tossed out and collect everything for me. Yes, yes, please. It's so cute. It's so good. It doesn't get old. Anyway, I'm running out of breath, but I'll just finish with I'm pleased. But now, let me get to a bit of the bad. There are some pretty terrible plot devices and things that just aren't as fleshed out as they could be. Classic Pokemon game. For example, it's still extremely convenient and totally random that the professor just immediately chooses you and throws his quest to complete the Pokedex on you. Like, come on, give us something, just any kind of writing at all, where there are real characters with real personalities that develop real relationships. Give us values and motivations that conflict and agree and cause real plot progression. But I guess that sort of basic writing acumen would be too much to ask for. And to add to that, I have to address the elephant in the room. It's very clear what they're going for with this game. This is an open world, or at least it's supposed to be. Now, what makes an open world good or bad is an incredibly deep conversation, but let me just touch on a few points. You have to fill your open world with things to do and see, and people to talk and interact with. One of the cardinal sins of open world game design is presenting the player with an empty world. So how does Legends Arceus stack up so far? Well, Look, this is a lot, but here we go. Every single residential building in Jubilife Village is the same inside. And no, not just similar. They are the same. I swear I spent 20 minutes going in and out of every single one, only to see the same room over and over and over again. And to top it off, while there were technically NPCs inside, they're totally lifeless. Let me walk you through a standard encounter you're gonna get when exploring the homes of the townsfolk in the village. Walk in, see room, walk to NPC. NPC says some dumb, irrelevant one-sentence thing about how you should eat berries or something, and that's it. You get one sentence. They may as well have been a billboard because they're totally lifeless. These aren't even interactions. I'm actually surprised they gave all these characters unique names if this is all they were going to use them for. In fact, it does give me just the slightest bit of hope that there will be some quest or some mission that forces you to return to these people later. I can only hope. Please just make them relevant and not fake content just in place to make the village feel like more than a single street with the necessary shops the player wants to use. Oh, and while I'm ranting, let's talk about the landscape. Look, there's no other way to put it. The wilderness is barren and empty and homogeneous. There isn't really much in it. There's Pokemon, a few collectible items and grass patches you can sneak in. It's just not that much. Granted, so far, I think the core gameplay is so good, I haven't actually felt bored or anything wandering around. But trying to be objective here, it's very bare. And it's also very samey. Again, to be fair, I'm only in the first few areas, and I'm totally down to eat my words later if this changes. But it's samey. Everything pretty much just looks the same. The textures are repetitive and dull. They have almost no depth or roughness to them. The whole game pretty much looks flat and paper-like. The color palette is okay, I guess, but it could be better. And if I had to give one final complaint, this time actually about core gameplay, it's that you can't jump. Maybe this sounds silly, but why can't you jump? You could argue it's unnecessary or too much to ask for a Pokemon game, but to that I would say, stop right there. This is supposed to be an open world RPG. You're telling me I can run and sprint and crouch and roll, but not jump? The landscape is 3D. There's hills and ledges and slopes to traverse. Even if it didn't serve a purpose, I just want to be able to fidget and press the jump button over and over while I explore. This is such a basic mechanic present in so many 3D games since the beginning of time, and it blows my mind that it isn't here. Again, if something comes up later in the game that proves me totally wrong here, then I will eat my words. But for now, okay. This was a whole lot more word vomit than I intended to spit out all at once. But hey, here we are. This is all the stuff I really felt like I wanted to say after the first 4 or 5 hours of gameplay. So far my experience is overwhelmingly positive, despite any ranting I just did. And I can't stress that point enough. Honestly, based on this experience alone, I would recommend buying this game to anyone who wasn't sure. And look, especially to anyone who's a longtime Pokemon fan. Certain parts of the experience so far have just been absolutely magical. I can't overstate the warm, fuzzy feeling I get when enjoying the core gameplay. They really may have finally struck gold here, but at risk of overstepping, I'm gonna shut up now. I hope this was helpful or entertaining in some way to somebody. Let me know if you have any questions at all or if there's anything else you want to see. I plan on putting out more videos about this game, so please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.
Whoa, hey. Oh, man. Ponyta. Why are you running? Oh.